What's happening, my YouTube family? Just coming at you with my post-game analysis of the Los Angeles Lakers and Portland Trail Blazers tonight. I don't know if any of you saw it, or for those of you that did, and for those of you who didn't know, of course, the Lakers did lose tonight against Damian Lillard and the Portland Trail Blazers in a final score of 115 to 107. Of course, LeBron James did his thing as usual, pouring in 29 points. Having 9 rebounds and 6 assists, but it wasn't quite enough to get the Lakers over the hump. Anthony Davis didn't get the Lakers much tonight. He only had 13 points. I want to say he was 6 out of 14 from the field. Of course, he probably should have took more shots, but just making only 6 shots is thinking the Lakers are going to win is something that you shouldn't expect. So Anthony Davis was out on yesterday because he did sit yesterday due to injury, so you would think that coming off this back-to-back that he would have his legs under him, but for some reason it just seemed like he didn't have his legs under him tonight. And what I did notice in the waning minutes of the game when it was close and the Lakers had a chance, you know, when they were only down by like 3 or 4 with like 4 or 5 minutes left, it just seems like LeBron James didn't have his legs underneath him. And it just seems like the whole team just didn't have their legs coming on the second night of a back-to-back, especially after a short season. And, of course, everybody is starting, still trying to get acclimated with one another as far as being new teammates on the team. But what it did get me to thinking about is, and this is what I want to kind of throw out here for you all to see how you feel about it. And, of course, leave your comments below so we can discuss it, how you feel, and of course let me know what your thoughts is on it. So of course in the earlier game when the Brooklyn Nets took on the Memphis Grizzlies, by the way, the Memphis Grizzlies won, shouts out to the Memphis Grizzlies, when they took on the Memphis Grizzlies, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving did not play in the game, and that was kind of surprising to me because I know, of course, they're resting, you know, on the second night of a back-to-back, and what they listed was injury recovery. That's what was listed for them because, as you all know, MGM in Las Vegas and everybody who has big-time money vested in this makes the association, as well as the NFL and other leagues, list whether or not players are going to be available to play that night, because of course you all know that could change a lot of bets for a lot of people who might have bet Brooklyn on the game without knowing that Kyrie and Kevin Durant were going to be sitting. I hope you were paying attention and didn't put your money up, and if you did, I hope you didn't bet too much, because of course the Memphis Grizzlies came out on top, which made me happy because, as you all know, I love me some Beale Street Blue and I love that teal blue, but we'll get more into that later. But the main reason I bring it up is because it really got me to thinking the difference of the approach that the Brooklyn Nets took versus the approach that the Los Angeles Lakers took. So as you all know, the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets is none other than Steve Nash. And what does Steve Nash have in common with another coach who has the same philosophy of resting players? That would be Steve Kerr, which everybody knows he was. Steve Nash was a consultant for the Golden State Warriors for a couple of years, and that's how he built a relationship with Kevin Durant, and more than likely got the green light from Kevin Durant before they brought in Steve Nash to be the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. But I said all that to say this: they come from Popovich, even though, of course, Nash played in Phoenix under D'Antoni, who is on his coaching staff. Steve Kerr comes from the Popovich coaching tree, and it was Popovich who early on started to rest players, and that was something that was big to him, that he really wanted to rest players throughout an 82-game season, especially as and a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't rest players, the fans get their money's worth. You know, I got mixed opinions on that, and we can make another video about that at another time. But the main thing is, you know, the pace picked up in the game, so there's a lot more possessions per game now than there used to be, especially with adding the shot clock, you know, resetting to 14 after a missed shot on the offense and the offensive rebound. That really adds on to the possession and the speed and the pace of the game. I'm not saying that the players should have an excuse to rest by any means, but what I am trying to point out is the philosophy that the Brooklyn Nets took is they set their star players to allow them to get rest, and they went out to try to get the victory. Of course, they suffered an injury too. Not sure if you guys saw that, but that's in the headlines too. That Dinwiddie did suffer a partially torn ACL, so that's going to keep him sidelined for a while until he has his surgery and comes back. So it's a partially torn ACL. So we do wish him a speedy recovery. Although y'all might not believe it, I am not a hater. Trust me, I wish much love and health to anybody that's injured, whatever team they own or not, because that's their livelihood and how these people take care of their family. And of course, I want to see competition thrive, and you want to see the best against the best. So anyway, my point is, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant took time off. And since Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, took the time off, that allowed for the younger players to get inserted into the starting lineup and into the lineup to get more playing time so they can get better, to where they can flourish. That way when their number is called later on, that they might have an opportunity when called upon, that they're not scared of the moment, so to speak. And they still tried to go out and get the victory. They almost were successful. The game went to overtime. Of course, Ja Morant was hurt. I really hate to see that Ja Morant was hurt. But since Ja Morant went out, the Grizzlies still pulled together and were able to pull out a very close contested victory. But that made the Nets record 2-2. Now, if you look at the way the Lakers approached the game, even though we know it's all early on in the season, LeBron James rolled his ankle in the first game. Then in the second game, he rolls that same ankle. And we all know LeBron is Superman, but they had already took the first loss to the Clippers, and now here he is with a sore ankle again. And then, of course, AD with the sore shoulder missed last night. So then, instead of resting LeBron and AD the way Brooklyn did, they chose to play LeBron and AD. And as you can see, they still came out with a loss and had the exact same record as the Brooklyn Nets. I understand every victory is important, and this is the West, and you, of course, want to have good seeding. Of course, if it comes back down to who has the number one in the East versus the West, as far as who will have home court advantage in the finals, hopefully COVID will be over by that time. By the time we roll around to June, who knows what'll be going on while we're suffering this pandemic. But what I mean to say is with the pressure of the fans involved, because home court advantage may not mean too much when, you have no fans there. Of course, all eyes are on you from at home. All eyes are on you from at home, excuse me. But it's a difference when you're in the stands and all eyes on you and you got the screaming crowd. So basically, the Lakers ended up with a 2-2 record, and they put more miles on LeBron, whereas they played back-to-back. So it's nothing to really panic about the Lakers. But what I did notice in the game too is LeBron James played for 35, almost basically 36 minutes of the game. Anthony Davis played for 38 minutes, and that's sad that he did play for 38 minutes and only gave you 13 points. And that's no knock on him, but I would have liked to see Marc Gasol get some more minutes. I know he only had 4 points, but I want to say Marc Gasol, still had a pretty good game. His plus minus was 14, which if you look at the stats, was the highest of the stats. You might say Kyle Kuzma gave you a hell of a game, but he was meshed with a lot of different players throughout the game. But what the number that really stood out to me, that Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, Wesley Matthews, Markieff Morris, and THT was all negative plus minus. And the worst being Kyle Kuzma, who was minus 23, which he's been coming out hot lately. But I'm going to continue to beat this. I'm still going to continue to pound this point home. I know Schroeder is the starting point guard, but I would love to see LeBron James move back over to that starting point guard position and to have Schroeder come off the bench with Harrell, because I think that second unit would be the best second unit in the league. And that way when LeBron and AD got their rest, then you're really not losing anything. And you can still bring Schroeder back into the rotation early to where he can still get some playing time with LeBron James. But as we all know, LeBron James is a ball-dominant player. Not saying that he cannot play off of the ball, because, of course, the GOAT is capable of doing all of these things. But with that being said, I just feel like the Lakers would function a little bit better with LeBron James. Actually, a lot better with LeBron James being and playing that point guard position. but that's something that's still yet to come. And of course, Marc Gasol, he had the highest plus minus, but I noticed in minutes he only had 19 minutes. So who knows? His plus minus might would have been lower had he played more minutes. But at the same time, a lot of people love going by analytics, and that's something that I like to do as well. And with that being said, I mean, men lie, women lie, but numbers do not lie. And Marc Gasol was a plus 14. I would love to hear what you all have to say about this for Lakers Nation, for Nets Nation, for whoever watching the video, for any NBA fan, for any of you casuals, for any of you stands, for any of you fans, for anybody. Put in the comments below. Let me know how you feel. If the Lakers should have indeed set LeBron James, like we said, he already had the ankle injury. Maybe that could have. He looked like he didn't have his legs at the end when the Lakers was close. He kind of pulled up short on a couple of shots where it just didn't seem like he didn't have his legs, and it just didn't seem like the Lakers had the motivation to go out and pull it out, whereas the Portland Trail Blazers really did, and they did have their legs. And, of course, the Portland Trail Blazers, I want to say, did not have a game yesterday. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that they did not. And usually when a team that plays back-to-back is going against a team that did not have a back-to-back, then that team prevails, unless it's just a really team that's not matched up good with them. So just please keep that in mind. So as we continue to go through the season, we'll continue to look at how Frank Vogel does his rotation for the Lakers, and also how he chooses to rest LeBron James in such a short offseason, coming off such an offseason. But what I did also want to touch on, too, is the fact that the new rules of the NBA states that you cannot rest your players on nationally televised games. Now, I know everybody doesn't have NBA TV. Some people out there in the boonies, but most people haven't found a way to stream nowadays anyway. So regardless, it still was a nationally televised TV game on NBA TV. Of course, it wasn't TNT or ESPN, NBC, ABC, one of the major networks like that, but it was a nationally televised game, and that is considered such. So I don't know if the Brooklyn Nets would be fined for sitting them out for rest, even though they said it was for injury recovery when they weren't injured in the previous game. So I guess they're saying injury from the previous year. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I honestly think it was a good move to sit them, because they almost pulled out the game, and it was a very good learning experience from the young team. And actually, the Lakers probably could have did the same thing. You could have saw THT play a little bit more and see Schroeder and everybody else see what they could have did against Dame Lillard and company. But at the end of the day, the Lakers lost. They are now 2-2, and the Portland Trail Blazers had lost. They are now 2-2 as. I'm sorry, not the Portland Trail Blazers. They played against them. And the Brooklyn Nets lost. They are 2-2 as well. So as I said, put your comments below. Let me know how you feel about how to rest LeBron James as the season goes on. And as of course you know, he is getting long in the tooth. So once again, this is Be New. I'm saying right on to the real. Much love to the haters. We got a full slate of games tomorrow. Not any particular game that stood out to me that's going to be a great game, but also comment if there's any game you want me to preview or any game that you want to discuss or talk about or focus on, then I'll be more than happy to do so. Again, leave your comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and definitely don't forget to hit that share button. Again, Be New, saying right on to the real, and much love to y'all haters. I'm so up out. Peace.